Get our blab on.
About to get a blab on. All right, now you guys, it is Kurt Molly, Mr. Jesse Jameson here on the blab. It's good to see you all. Now, what we're actually doing is some people are seeing this that's popping in right away. I actually didn't send this to our email list. We're only going to put this in the back of our membership section. But I'll tell you about Jesse here in just a second. I do cover this real quick. If anybody watches this recording, typically this is just for our social media Ad Genius community members. But basically on a blab, I love a blab. We're going to start doing weekly contents of blab. I got my entire layer in the sky completely, I guess, decorated in these big old Post-it notes and stuff like that Ashley's been helping me with all week long. But we'll explain the content process here in just a little bit. We're going to call it the Social Media Ad Genius Factory. So the people coming down for Layer in the Sky weekend, it'll be the first time you guys have ever seen it. But real quick, what's going to happen is we start up on the top left-hand side. You're going to see Beta was inside of the blab. Jesse said this is his very first blab, so I'll give you a very quick run-through for everybody. At the very top, you're going to see 10 people have actually joined us, bounced in, bounced out. 5 people are watching us right now. Some of the 5 smartest people in the world. If I click on that little thing, thank you, Ashley. Have a great day. On that little eyeball with 5 people shows you some of the brightest people here. And you can follow some of those people as well, too. Now, I love Blab for the strategy for a couple of things. Is just being able to record this. By the way, Jesse, I can record it. And then within 10, 15 minutes, they send me the recording. Which is the video. You can also embed it on your website. You can embed this live video on your website. You can also download the audio. So if you want to do like a podcast interview, and all of a sudden now you have your podcast, right?
Right.
Obviously, I know you and I have had lots of conversations about modalities of learning. So the other thing is what happens is anybody who's on here live on the right-hand side, you can ask any question that you want by just typing in your question. Or if you want to mention us, of course, on social media as well. Now, the thing is, you're going to want to make sure above Jesse's beautifully haired head or shiny head or whatever you want to call it without trying not to offend him, is make sure you click on the little icon above his head, and that'll be able so you can follow Jesse on Blab, and you'll be able to follow him on Twitter as well, too. So, remember, if you do click on right underneath Jesse's name where it says JP Jameson, I'm going to give you his little profile right there. Click on the little Twitter icon, and it'll take you over to Twitter. Now, if you go to the left-hand side, you can say, hey, tell little birdie. It'll come up and say Facebook Lead Ad Strategies with Jesse Jameson, presented by the Social Media Ad Genius. And, I didn't realize this. They're actually creating a little GIF, recording GIF.
What?
No way. So, Jesse, if you hit tweet, it'll create a GIF of you and I.
Well, I'll be damned.
So what it does is it creates a GIF for the image, and then it sends it out on Twitter. That's really interesting. I've never seen that before.
That is pretty sweet.
Huh. Wow, and that just has me just kind of staring slackjaw with my mouth open. It's awesome. Oh, Patty Dominguez is here too, which is great.
Patty.
Great to see Patty. So tell your friends out on the Twitters or tell your aunt on the Facebook. Patty says hello. But other than that, the last thing I want to add is there's a couple of interview questions I want to have for Jesse, and then we're going to jump into some Q&A if you guys want to join us for Q&A as well, too. The main thing is make sure you follow Jesse on Blab and on the Twitter. Make sure you follow me on Blab and the Twitter. We're going to start doing these Blabs on a weekly basis with content and experts that I have as well, too. So if you want to come on in, you can ask some questions as well. But one of the most important things is before we get started is right below the right-hand side of Jesse, you see he has 9 or I have 18. That is what we like to talk about right now as giving props, right? So anytime Jesse says something really smart, you can hit that button over and over and over. It's like multiple high fives, right? The more applause that he gets, the higher the score, the more on people on Blab can be looking for content like this and say, oh my God, this is great. So now that I've given everybody the hangout on Blab, again, we're going to go through some interview questions, but the seat is not locked. You can come in and answer questions or ask questions live once I kind of go through a couple of things with Jesse. But Jesse, that is our overview of Blab, and I'm really happy that you're here, my friend.
It's very cool. Yeah, first one, and I tell you, I like the concept far better than I do Periscope. It just seems like I'd prefer not to have the perishable content and actually have something that you can push into a couple different formats depending upon how a person likes to consume their content.
Absolutely. So one of the things I want to start off with that I think is very important for all reviewers to understand is you've been in the internet space. I always love to make fun of you that you're old. You've been in there for a very long time, well over, is it close to 20 years now? I used to say 15, but it has to be close to 20, isn't it?
It was 1999, so it's going on 16 now.
16 plus 4 is 20. That sounds great. My math is right. So here's the interesting thing, though. You've owned or been CEO of multiple seven-figure companies, and I want to tell people I say that not because, oh my God, Jesse drives a Ferrari and lives in a mansion on a hill and he's in a rap video, but you've seen lots of transactions and people operate in patterns. So I really, really want people to really understand, as they're listening to this and get to know you, that the weight behind of what you say something and the years of experience and the people that you worked with. Like, you have some really, really, really good insight. And I want to give you an example. Is like you've talked about before, you follow history and innovation. Like, we've talked about the Facebook platform a lot, right?
Yep.
You've always, I can't remember the exact quote, but you've always told me is you look at, and maybe you can explain this process, how you kind of figure out some of your marketing. You look at the leaders where they've worked at other companies, what they've done in the past, when they're being input into, like, what's kind of, I know you always have your finger of the pulse on marketing, but you've been doing this for so long, like, how do you kind of draw those lines, draw that lineage? Because you have a ton of experience behind it. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I think a big piece of it is just pattern recognition, and it goes along with anything that you've been doing for an extended period of time. You tend to see trends and patterns. And being that the internet changes so much every day, it really is not something that can be effectively taught in schools and universities. It really gets down to, by the time that they were to develop a curriculum, it would be outdated. Yes, there are best practices that continue to work, but the landscape continues to change so much and so fast that it's really difficult to be able to keep up with it. And so one of the things that I've been able to do effectively is be able to kind of look down the road based on some things that are obvious, like, for instance, who's Facebook hiring? And one of the conversations we had in the past is when they snatched up the former president of PayPal. That was a key indicator that they moved some money. And as people have already seen, a great example of that is that now you can send money to your friends and family through the Messenger app. And the purpose of that is that, and you've heard me say this many times, is that people aren't on Facebook to buy a product or service or to solve a problem just yet. They're there to connect, share, and be entertained. However, what Facebook is beginning to do, because they have such weight in our daily lives, is they're starting to slowly turn that knob, kind of like putting a frog in boiling water, water, and then you slowly turn it up, and they will actually not jump out of the pot. They're just going to get used to it as the temperature rises. So right now, a perfect example is looking at some of those trends, who they're bringing on board, the things that they're testing, and it's going to give you a look at the future. It's not going to be that far off before products and services are being sold and marketed on Facebook with consistency.
It's interesting because we're laying out, as I told you a little bit before we jump onto this call, and people will start to see, I mean, this is going to be really in our membership section, but people will start to see we're talking about the social media ad genius profit factory, which is really, hey, step by step, here's how you quantify where you're making money, where you're losing money. Here's what you need to fix. That's why we want to introduce people in our community, people like yourself, like, hey, this is an expert. This can help you with each one of these parts. But what the whole hypothesis and kind of theory is around is this artificial intelligence. This Facebook and Google knows more about us than we know about ourselves, than what we tell people that we know versus what we search for, versus what we actually click on, versus what we're actually saying to the general public, versus the way that we act, right?
Sure.
And I was talking to this guy, Lawton Childs. I did a Periscope with him a week ago. Brilliant copywriter. And Lawton's like, you really got to tell people and really show people that, hey, look, this artificial intelligence can predict the future, almost. But it can predict buying patterns, pretty much exactly what you said. They have all the data. No one can predict the future, but they do predict the weather. And oh my God, with even greater accuracy, they can predict buyers. So you've been in this in a really good long time, targeting 10 years ago, 5 years ago, a year ago compared to today. Like, what is your 16 years of experience, Tony?
Yeah. So in a former life, before the internet became my focus, a good 15, 16 years ago now, I was in the corporate world in software and working for a very large software company, actually a number of different companies. But what would happen then to be able to get not just demographic data, age, gender, location, where they live, all that sort of thing, but psychographic data to essentially do what you're talking about, is predict people's behavior. you needed to spend a lot of money with companies like IDC, International Data Corporation, and they still exist, and major corporations will still get lots of data from them. However, today there is no source on the planet that has that kind of emotional psychographic data. No one has more of it than the social networks, in particular Facebook. So the type of data that you can get now is what a major corporation would have had to have paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to even millions of dollars for in the past. And this is available to anyone. And it really tells a story about how people engage with you now, how people engage with others now, and the motivating factors that are likely to lead them in the direction of a buying decision.
So that's interesting. So if you don't mind, without dating yourself, which I guess you already did, so it doesn't really matter. But like when you're talking, because I didn't even think about that. Like when I first got into real estate, for example, I'm like, man, it's really interesting, like how you can search for houses online and the colors and the prices, blah, blah, blah. And I asked a real estate agent once, and I'm like, how did you guys sell houses before the interwebs? And they're like, oh, we would get a book once a week where we would flip through. And I'm like, I didn't even fathom that you would pay millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars or even thousands of dollars to target, which is interesting because now that I think I can target 1 million people, 35, 55 female in the United States who like yoga and have purchased green smoothies. And now you said that, I guess I've never heard it in that frame. Like we've always talked, you and I always talk about a frame of reference. Like, yeah, you would have paid thousands of dollars to get those leads, huh?
Yeah. Incredibly powerful. And targeting has gotten even more granular because you start off by targeting who you think is your most likely, I believe you refer to as an avatar. I'll say that. And I also use ideal customer profile. But really nailing down exactly who you believe in the very beginning is your most likely prospect that's going to convert into a customer. And a lot of times we learn things along the way that give us new information that kind of even reframe that just a little bit. But once you've identified who you believe that is, where you believe they hang out, what their age or gender is, and whether they like ice cream or, like this political campaign or that one, you begin there. And then now, again, targeting has become even more granular because, as you know, very few people buy the very first time they're exposed to something, even though that is the goal of direct response marketing. Yeah. It's often when people see your message 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 times that they actually make a buying decision. And now there's a lot of things in place, and you've seen it. You've been retargeted. If you've been to Amazon, you go and look at a stereo or whatever item is, and the next thing you know, you see it there on the right-hand column of Facebook or other sites that you happen to land on. That's retargeting, and it's one of the most effective types of marketing today because it only targets people who have already expressed an interest in what you have to offer. So there's a lot of things now that we have available to us as individuals that major corporations didn't even have available to them even 5-7 years ago.
It's interesting you say that because we talk about this, as I brought up a couple of times, the SMAG factory, which is really just step by step. Are we going to compartmentalize every step? And what's interesting in hearing you saying is I couldn't imagine having to buy 1 million plus person a bunch of data. Like I'm thinking about all that time, and then I can log into Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn, and instantly just tap into those people, which is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
So the other thing is one of the hypotheses that we've really been talking about too is, hey, look, Facebook or Google or a lot of these other social sites, like they don't necessarily want your money. Like they don't need your money. What they want is super congruent content. So now we have targeting. Targeting's super simple where it used to be really hard before.
Yep.
But before you used to use a lot of general content because you had general targeting. Would you mind talking about, because you produce a lot of content, how relevant does that have to do? Because that's going to get into some of the retargeting stuff we talked about in mobile leads. I want to loop that in, but let's talk about that congruency of what you're seeing in that content over the years and what you're seeing now, especially on Facebook.
Yeah, that actually opens up a lot of different questions. Yeah. Let me start by saying this. One of the reasons that I made a shift from all the different things I've been doing in the past, copywriting, creating sales funnels, creating and selling info products, coaching, consulting, all these different things. And for the past few years, my focus has been almost exclusively social media. And the reason for that is because in the past, there used to be very simple things you could do to game the system. If you wanted a page that was relevant to golf and the search engines to believe that, you essentially just put golf a bunch of times on your page. That was way back in the day. They called it keyword stuffing.
Yeah.
Well, then there was algorithms updates to change that. And so it made it more difficult for a person to game the system. And why is this important? Because what Google wants, or any search engine, and even Facebook, is they want to produce the most relevant content so that their consumers of that content feel pleased and are very happy about the results they're getting. When you start getting results that you're not happy with, aka Yahoo, you lose the top spot for search engines, because at one point they had the lock on it, but they started using their own influence for marketing purposes to put things in there that altered natural search.
Hang on 1 second, just for a second, because I see Google and Facebook and Yahoo, they all repeat each other, and you always talk about the history of it. Do you mind talking about that story just for a second? So Yahoo is number one. Then they started, because I always tell people Facebook and Google don't want to screw with their ecosystem, otherwise you don't use it. So I don't know if I've heard this story from you. I've heard a little bit, but do you mind kind of talking about that history and how you saw things change when all that happened?
Sure. A long time ago, when way back in the day, actually, I still have I can't use it anymore because of the spam, but I actually have my last name at Yahoo as my, as my email username and login there. But back in the day, they were essentially first to market. It was theirs to lose. And when search engines were really just starting to form, the idea was to have it be a place where people could type in anything they wanted to know. And hopefully the search engine, over time, as it accumulated more data, would give you back, like a genie in a bottle, your wish is my command, what would you like to know today? And they would give that information back to you, and hopefully it was relevant. But then all of a sudden, when you started seeing results that, okay, this isn't exactly what I was looking for. Why am I seeing this? And it was for the purposes of taking advertisers and stuffing them in there and making it look like a natural search. And that's the reason later that Google actually makes it clear that these are sponsored listings. These are sponsored listings over here.
Oh, I love these conversations with
natural search.
Good.
Yeah. So Yahoo lost it. They lost it because Google became more relevant in search. And what Google chartered to do would be the single source in the entire world for all information. That's kind of sounds scary, world domination for information. And then as the story progressed, when Facebook came out, it really shook the foundation for Google. And the reason for this is that, imagine this, though, up until Facebook's time, really, and you had all of this information out there that Google had access to. Anywhere you went, they could see your behavior. You went here, you went here, you went here. What are you doing? What pages are you visiting? Then all of a sudden, when Facebook came, there's a door. Got this little door here. And in that door, Google's on the outside going, what is going on in there? What are they doing? There's now a gap in my information.
Yep.
And so now Facebook all of a sudden is the procurer and shepherd of all of this information that Google no longer has access to. So it's a big gap in their plans. And so you saw them trying to come out with various different social networks and mediums to be able to capture that information to try and compete with Facebook so they weren't losing the information game. And of course, it was just too late by the time they came out with that. So now you have Facebook as the dominant source of the most useful information, because Google has demographic data. They have all this stuff that's relevant to making buying decisions and things that are solving a problem, making a product purchase. They can see your behavior in that regard. But what they can't see that they wish they could is how you interact with your friends and your family and the things that you like and the things that actually, if you have that data, you can really get a lot closer to understanding what a person's next decision is going to be. In fact, there was a study at a couple different universities where they, based on Facebook data, they were able to predict with accuracy up to 80% or more a person's sexual preference, their race, whether they did drugs or alcohol, all these different things that, without the person ever saying this, just based on the pages and things that they've liked. Wow. And they've been able to do it with incredible accuracy. And so that's one of the reasons that the data there is so important, is because it's able to tell you a lot more about a person than, in many cases, the person realizes that the system knows.
Well, it's funny. I was just about ready to ask you that question. Like, which do you think has more powerful data? Like, this is why I love chatting with you, because I'm thinking like, oh my God, what do you think has the most powerful data? And you're like, I think this is more powerful for the data. I'm like, holy crap. So that's really interesting. Okay.
There was just one other quick one that's kind of relevant to show you how powerful it is. And this was a no-no that Facebook got called on, but they did a test some time back where they altered the news feed of a few different people to put some things that are a little bit negative in there and to see how they responded. And for the rest of that day, the type of things that the person focused on was negative. So they actually, based on making some subtle changes in the news feed, they were able to alter the way a person actually felt and interacted with people for the rest of the day. That's pretty powerful.
What's crazy to hear is like, I mean, you and I always talk about test and verify, testing different ideas. Does this ad work? I don't know. But when you get, it's just creepy to think about, when you get 5 or 1.6 million, whatever that is, when you get let's just say 1 million people, because they had a recent record where 1 million people hit Facebook or 1 billion people hit Facebook simultaneously, all at the exact same time, right? And I don't know, maybe it's 3-4 months ago. But it was someone who told me, they're like, just imagine Facebook can come in and say, oh, there's 3 ads on the side. I want to test 1 ad. Hit a button.
Yeah.
Wait 7 to 10 seconds and be like, okay, we got 100,000 people who just made this thing, and we can tell that people will, which literally can influence your mood, your actions, as you said, predicts your behavior.
Yeah.
So let's talk about predicting behavior for just a second on 2 different fronts. The first one being retargeting. So people always ask me, should I be doing retargeting? I'm like, oh my God, 42% of my revenue last year was. And then they got this new retargeting pixel. Then they got to figure out, okay, I put a retargeting pixel on what page and how. And some people are like, but I don't have a page that I retarget to. Like, I'm only marketing to a Facebook page or like a Google form, or can I advertise a CNN article? And you and I always talk about like solving problems. And you came up with a really great solution that I want to add to our toolbox for our SMAG factory. Can you talk a little bit about retargeting, the power of retargeting, and the solution that you came up with, like that eliminates basically all those problems that I just talked about?
Sure. Retargeting, as I mentioned earlier, it's incredibly significant because think of it as marketing insurance, for one.
I like that.
It costs you a lot of money to get people to see your offers, your products, your services, to get to your website. And most of those people are going to leave without making a buying decision. And it's going to be for a number of different reasons. It's going to be because the baby was crying, someone knocked at the door, they were late for work. And if you did not have a means by which to capture their visitor information, say with an opt-in form, a newsletter subscription, or whatever like that, then they may be gone forever because you will have no reason or method to remind them that they expressed interest in what you have to offer. That is until you introduce retargeting. And the process is simple. You take one little piece of code, you install it on your website, it populates throughout all the pages of your site. Now, anytime someone visits your site, be it on a desktop or mobile device, they are tagged as a Facebook user. And a lot of people ask this question, do they actually have to be logged into Facebook at the time? And the answer is no. And from then ever on, or at least for a 6-month window, is the time period by which Facebook will allow one of those people to stay within your audience group. Now, you did hear me mention retargeting on Facebook. There's other types of retargeting, third-party networks like Perfect Audience and AdRoll, which will place your ads outside of the social platform. But the point is that these people are solid gold. Rather than targeting 1 million people that you think are your targeted avatar or ideal customer profile, these are people that have actually seen an ad at some point, clicked on the ad, went to your website, and now I call it dynamic re-engagement based on the behavior that they showed or demonstrated while on your website. For instance, if you have a website about scuba diving, and on your website you have a page that's related to scuba diving trips, another one might be rentals, another one might be lessons, okay? You can actually put ads in front of those people to retarget them based on what they expressed an interest in. Okay, if they're looking for scuba diving trips, chances are they're already certified. You don't need to put ads about lessons in front of them. If someone looked at rentals, then those people probably don't have their own equipment. So now you could also put ads in front of them to buy their own equipment or some rental discounts or something like that to gain them as a customer. So you can actually engage them with your marketing very specific to the intent that they expressed based on their behavior while on your website. This is incredibly powerful, and you're always going to see your best marketing results from your retargeting because they're already a little bit down the road in the process of making that buying decision. That makes sense?
Yes. So do you mind talking about the solution that you put together? Because so many people try to send us sites, click on buttons, click here, and you just created a brilliant, well, you have a couple of brilliant solutions, but I think these are great tools. Do you mind talking about your retargeting solution? I think it's great.
Yeah, absolutely. So a while back, actually, I created a course on retargeting. And during one of the webinars I was giving on it, someone raised the question, can you retarget in email? Can you retarget, when someone clicks a link in your email? Can you retarget if you're sending traffic to an affiliate promotion or a website that you don't own? And my immediate response was, well, no, you can't, because you're supposed to, you need to add that code to your website. And then I got to thinking about it. And so I had a plugin created that actually resolved that problem, because many of the times when we are driving traffic to an offer or sending traffic somewhere, it's not always a website that we own. So what I ended up doing is creating a plugin that essentially allowed you to drop the code in, that your retargeting code, be it from one of the third-party retargeting platforms or from Facebook, and then now create a link on your own blog, kind of use it as a redirect link. And so now you can I could send traffic to Mashable, and pretty sure we all realize I don't own Mashable. It'd be nice if I did. But if there was an article that I thought was really relevant to my list or to a fan page on Facebook, and based on those people expressing interest in that article, if I knew that, okay, if they expressed interest in that article, that's someone I want to retarget later for one of my own products, services, or anything. Now I have a means by which to do that. So essentially what this tool allows you to do is retarget anyone that clicks on your link, regardless of where you're sending them, whether they're going to your site or someone else's site.
Now, I just put in, just for everybody, just to let you know, I just put in a link right down over here that says smag2.com/retargeting-pro. So that's Jesse's. So just to be clear, because I know people are always joining us, and just kind of as a recap as well too, is inside Social Media Ad Genius, inside of our community, is we have a community of a ton of online marketers, small businesses, local businesses, online businesses, who are all learning different advertising techniques, anywhere from Facebook to Google to LinkedIn to Pinterest to even more. And what we've just been talking about really for the last, I look at 30 minutes, is the lineage and history of why Facebook and Google are looking for you to target certain ways, or the abilities that you have now. And Jesse just talked about different ways to retarget and why it's so important. Now, for our members, this recording, this entire conversation, it's going to be in the back of our Social Media Ad Genius community. Now, if you want to learn for exactly what Jesse was just talking about and have the plugin and solution, there's a link right down here as well. Now, we're going to start doing these blabs on a weekly basis, and it's really just a conversation. It's an interview. I want to introduce you to an expert in the field, someone that I've partnered with in business, someone that I've looked up to, someone that I've used lots of his strategies as well too, as I want to make sure you guys are using them too. So it's not, we don't hold blabs to be like, hey, let's get 500 people on here and sell as much crap as we can. This blab is, hey, here's an expert, and I unequivocally know that these tools will absolutely work. So there's a link down there as well before. It is an affiliate link. You get paid for referrals. So we set it up to pay for this time, but it's a damn great product. It's not just to slam stuff on you. So everything you mentioned before, like Jesse, thank you. You guys check out the Retargeting Pro. Now, Jesse, I'm going to give you 3 of the most frequently asked questions and kind of have you address them if you don't mind. I'm going to kind of bunch them all in together. 1, I don't know what the hell this code thing is. It's hard to install.
Yes.
When you use this thing that you have, is this difficult? Is it hard?
Right. So if you have basic computer skills and you know how to cut and paste and you know how to follow step-by-step instructions, I've had in the thousands now of folks that have been a part of the network marketing industry. And I use that as an example because usually those are people that for the most part are very new to doing anything online. And if that is an audience that has been able to successfully, without much difficulty at all, go through the process, then I would stand here and say that just about anyone can do it for sure.
So everybody can do it.
Yep.
Right? Some people still have this barrier. They're like, I think it could be really hard. What's the cost barrier? Meaning that what happens if they don't start retargeting or start using tools like yours to retarget?
Oh, yeah.
They're just like, I just think it's too hard and it's not worth the effort. Like, what are they missing out on?
Sure. Think of it this way. Let's say that you took $1,000 just for a test ad and you push that ad out to who you think might be interested in your products or services. And let's just use a round number of, say, 10% that actually expressed interest. Okay. So it costs you that $1,000 to get, let's say, 100 people to show up and see that information on your website. Now, the overwhelming majority, 90% plus, are going to leave without ever having done anything. So there's that money right out the window, and maybe 5% of them actually did something if it was a good call to action. Well, you still have that other 95% of all the people that visited and showed interest. A retargeting ad simply only targets those people. So when you run that ad again, now you're only running that ad to people that have expressed interest. And if you're not doing that, you're absolutely positively leaving money on the table. It's the lowest hanging fruit you have in your business is people who've already expressed interest. So it's not like a general ad where you're just putting it out there and people are seeing your offer for the first time. This is a way for you to bring those people back, to pick up where you left off in the sales process, to reach out to them again dynamically based on what they expressed interest in. If you're not doing that, you're going to lose out to your competitors all day long who are, because it means that whoever is doing it is able to acquire customers for less than you will if you're not.
So I want to go over a third part that I know you've been around for, that you've seen. So we've talked about retargeting, this code. You can insert it here. You can follow around people with ads. Now, one of the things that you were really well known for in the early days, the beginning of time, it's so funny. Like we talk about 15, 20 years, beginning of time, meaning really the internet.
Right.
Now we're close to like, oh, remember being a farmer where, no, we're only talking 15, 20. Is storytelling. This is a big thing we're going to be talking about with our social media ad genius factory. And really, I mean, I went to an event. I've told everybody this story. I think I told you this story. I went to this event, watched this guy on stage, 83 minutes he speaks, and he has 90 minutes to speak. In 7 minutes, he's like, oh, yeah, by the way, I have a product solution. It'll do A, B, C, and D. It's $2,500. Today only $997. And he sold $185,000 worth. And it was all around stories. So you've created other products like copywriting products and told stories. Do you mind talking about for just a minute how you like to tell stories, how you use retargeting to help enhance those stories and not leave that additional money on the table versus just running one ad to retarget somebody because they hit my homepage?
Sure. Yep. The good thing about retargeting and how it works into story selling is that
that's good.
You really, in the very beginning, you're going to try whatever you think will be the most common hook to bring a person's attention to what it is that you're sharing. And telling a story is one of those ways that we can do it, because when you're telling a story or sharing a story, you're engaging a different part of the brain than you are when you're problem solving. And people are reflecting back to the story that you're telling, and they're injecting themselves vicariously into the story. And that's what you want to do, is you want to pull in that engagement. Now, the way that you go about doing it is not going to resonate with everyone. But the good news is that when you're retargeting, you can then try different triggers and different things that are a part of a story that might resonate with them more so than the one that you did before. So you have another opportunity to engage them. And the other thing that's good about story selling is that you are doing something, you're communicating in a way that is conversational. So that way, it's also something that people will remember and something that people are more likely to share. And so that's what I found myself in my own business, and also for putting together copywriting and autoresponder campaigns for clients, is that by starting with a hook that is going to be something that's going to get their attention, that's something you want to do. And you see this even when you're doing videos on YouTube. Short videos, something that opens with a hook to get their attention. And then you get into a story, and you also create an open loop. If you have a series of emails, especially if you're sending out, or even in ads, you will see this now, to where there's a bit of an open loop. The only way to close that loop is to go to the next step or to wait for that next email. And if you're doing it right, you're going to create so much anticipation that people will actually be looking forward to your email. And that's ideal.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've spoken at a couple of different events over the last couple of weeks. And just to make a point, I asked people, I'm like, hey, look, how many people in here watch TV and watch the news? And which was awesome. A lot of the people we hang out with, like hardly any hands went up. I'm like, that is awesome. Play along with me. Let's just say like everybody jumps on the news every once in a while. Doesn't mean we watch it every night, but like, you know what do you jump to? And they're like, one person's like MSNBC. And I'm like, great. Name the other 9 or 10 or 12 sites you go to for your news. And they're like, I don't even really check it that often, but when I do that, I only go to one place. And I'm like, that is my point. Because if you keep on using storytelling the right way, people are just like, oh, well, Jesse's one of the Facebook experts. I mean, he's a friend I know of Kurt's. He's been around forever, and it's because people see your ads over and over and over, and you really start telling that story. So do you find that these, and then I want to talk about one other solution you have, but do you find these stories are complicated? Do people script them out, like follow up with people every 2 days and tell a really dramatic story? Like, what would you give someone they just start using your retargeting stuff, or maybe you go in this in the training, but like, how do they tell that story in the sequence? How do they put those puzzle pieces together?
I would say, I usually direct people to training that has been effective and out there. I direct people often to ARM, because they do a rock solid job of setting up sequences. I would say that the important thing to remember is that it may be very different for different niche markets and niche industries, and the real answer, the only answer that can really be given with consistency is test, test, test.
What would you say then for someone basic? They're like, hey, Jesse, I hear you say I have to do retargeting. I'll get your plugin. I'll get your retargeting course. I think that's great. But to tell the story, do I need like 2 or 3 ads? Is it just telling a little bit of the story? Like I know you mentioned ARM, autoresponder madness, like for email that you can use as retargeting. But just for someone really basic, 2-3 ads over 7-10 days. Any advice for that?
Mm-hmm. I would say with your ads, you want to hit on something as quickly as possible as you can that is of value, that creates enough curiosity for them to click through to your page. And so I would say test 3 different variations of that. And remember, again, the purpose of the ad is to create curiosity. That's the value exchange. Okay, you create the ad, and they're going to pay for it with their curiosity and their click. When they go from there, the number one thing that you have to do is realize that you don't want to do bait and switch. It needs to be congruent with the reason that they clicked on that ad. If it's not congruent with it, and you all of a sudden want to switch it up, and you're like, I got you here, but here's what I want to show you. You have just lost rapport. You have just tainted the relationship, and you've taken a step backwards and a step forward. So you want to make sure that it's very congruent, that they got something along the lines of what they expected there at that time. In the very moment that they click on it, you know that now you have the ability to continue to communicate with them, even if they don't make a purchase or they don't subscribe to your newsletter or give you their contact information. That's the power of retargeting. And so just remember that each step of the process, and if they do land on that page and you are offering something of value, that's another value exchange. If it's a free report, a download, whatever that might be, again, if they give you their contact information for it, because that's the currency they're using to pay for this value exchange, make sure when they get that report, that it is congruent with what you promised them. Each step of the way, the more trust that you gain, the more likely they are going to make a buying decision along that way and become a customer rather than just a prospect. So
one of the points that we're going to be talking about in our upcoming training is, and I'd love to get your opinion on this here real quick, is I've come to the hypothesis that your website doesn't have to be perfect as long as there's disclosures on it. Mm-hmm. Customers have a good customer experience, meaning they can click on stuff and it's not broke, regardless if it's misspelled. Right? Could be ugly, but the links they click on they work, and it's just relevant to them.
Yes.
So like when people are asking me their follow-up story, and I'm like, I think, and again, I'd love to get your opinion. I don't think Facebook and Google are looking for what our psychology thinks that a lot of people getting into into online marketing. My website has to be perfect. My targeting has to be perfect. My ad has to be perfect. Oh my God, everything has to be perfect. I really feel it just has to be congruent. So as long as you're continuing to tell that story, when someone clicks on it, it's congruent. Mm-hmm. You do the same way. Like I know a lot of people procrastinate because they try to get it perfect. Does it have to be perfect? Does it have to be congruent? What's your thought?
Well, the thing to realize about in both instances, Google or Facebook, that what both of them want more than anything else is a pleasant experience for their users. Okay, and this goes as far as to say that even on Facebook, and this is a real world example. If you were to have a an ad that was a picture of a child going through treatment for leukemia, bald head, whatever, going through treatment, not looking so healthy. Honestly, that doesn't really make people feel good. And Facebook would rather that you didn't have that there. That is the simple bottom line. They want it to go through a Disney filter because people are there to share and to be entertained. And so as long as you can do that and keep that in that through that filter, you're going to find that if you can make things conversational and put it through that Disney filter for Facebook, that you're going to be okay. There's going to be times where it's going to be difficult to do that, but just keep in mind that that's ultimately what they want. And the reason that they want that is they want people to have their users, their members, to have a very pleasant experience, which means they will stay on the site longer.
So let's jump over to there's kind of 2 points with this, but I'm going to kind of jump tracks here real quick. Mm-hmm. So there's really an old adage. I'm going to kind of contradict myself in here. There's really an old adage that if you keep people on Facebook, you're going to save a ton of money. Now, I know that by sending people outside of Facebook, tracking pixels, conversion pixels, Facebook now doesn't care if you stay inside of Facebook. Right. They just care that they can see everything that you're doing.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yes.
But I want to jump back to say that where I kind of contradict myself, where you say that to keep people inside of Facebook. So another solution that you have is this mobile lead training of getting mobile leads off mobile phones. I mean, mobile is huge. There's over 30% of the market out there that only gets on Facebook only because of their mobile phone. Yeah. And I show people in our audience insight training to take a look at their avatar, and it'll show how many people only use desktop, how many people only use mobile, how many people use a mix. And people are always surprised of the people that use the mix and the people that are on mobile only.
Yes.
Do you mind talking about for a minute? Because your experience, your training keeps people inside of Facebook. It collects a lead. I know you're testing out some other things as well too. Mm-hmm. But do you mind talking about keeping people in Facebook with your lead solution and how to make it easy and convenient for a great user experience?
Yes, absolutely. And again, you touched on something I'll just cover real quick with regards to why it used to be appropriate for Facebook to keep people in the ecosystem. But now every major website outside of Facebook is still collecting Facebook data on behalf of Facebook. So that's the reason why now a person can be absolutely anywhere and Facebook doesn't mind because they're still getting data back. So to answer your question with regards to mobile, mobile right now represents the bulk of Facebook's advertising revenue. And it's continue to grow that way. And the reason for it is that a mobile device is a person's personal command center, and it's going to continue to be that way. People are spending less and less time in front of screens on their desktop. It's just more convenient to wherever you are to be able to use your phone.
I've heard it as the remote control of your life. And I'm like, oh my God, that is awesome.
It truly is. And in that case, especially even outside of the US, we were doing some ad campaigns in Singapore and Hong Kong, and that was by far the number one way to reach people. The challenge with it is that while mobile traffic through ads is your lowest cost traffic, it'll be all day long, will be cheaper than desktop. The challenge in the past has been that when it comes time for a person to enter data, that data being contact information or billing information with a credit card, that's kind of when they get to that place where, well, maybe I really didn't want this information after all, because the value exchange of me, the fat thumbing keys, it just isn't there. And so you have a lot of drop off. So while it's the cheaper traffic, it's the lowest converting traffic compared to a desktop. However, there's a lot of places where mobile traffic comes in very well. For instance, page likes, if you're growing an audience because all they have to do is tap and they're done. Anything that involves just a tap is a good thing on a mobile device. And so recently, Facebook opened up the ability to generate leads on mobile devices. And so now the tides have turned, as where conversions used to be greater on a desktop device. Now it is easier and still far cheaper to generate a lead on your mobile device, because all they simply have to do is when they're scrolling their newsfeed and they're looking at their newsfeed and they see your ad pop up, they tap once to express interest in that ad. The next thing they see is the request from you, the advertiser. So in other words, the currency that they're going to use for this download or whatever it is you're offering them happens by just paying for another tap. And what are they tapping? They're tapping approval for Facebook to provide you, the advertiser, with the contact information you requested. So that could be a name, email address, phone number, and other data that you put in there. But those are some of the common ones with a single tap. Tap, tap, and you're done. Okay. This makes lead capture the easiest that it's honestly ever been, because prior to this, on a mobile device, while the traffic was cheap, it still took the time and effort. And there's actually a statistic that it takes on average 38% longer to fill out just a name and email address form on a mobile device than it does on desktop. So you would lose a lot in conversion. And now it's easier, far easier than it is even on a desktop.
So a couple of questions with that, just to clarify for everybody else who's listening, is what happens is you can set up Facebook ads and you can say, hey, Facebook, if someone is interested in my content, all they have to do is click the ad once, click the ad a second time. And then I know you were looking into this just a little bit, but it is there's a CVS file. So there's an Excel file that they download that they can contact, or they upload that into Aweber. Like, what's that next process? Like, how do they get the leads and contact them?
Sure. Because this is fairly new for Facebook, the way that they do it now is when a lead is generated, it goes into a lead form file that you can find on whatever page you've associated with that ad. As you know, anytime you run an ad on Facebook, it requires that you associate it with a page that you're an admin for. Well, if you go into that ad, go to your page, and you'll find a little drop down a section that says Publishing Tools. You click on that. You go down to lead forms, because you can have multiple lead forms. And then wherever the form is that you have an ad running for, there'll be a file there that you click and download. Now, while that is a manual process, there are third-party tools that are starting to come out that will connect through the Facebook APIs and directly in real time pull that data and drop it into your CRM. And that's something that I'm working with right now to test on our own behalf for our company, which is a game changer to have real-time leads with phone numbers instantly show up in your CRM, have a rep be able to immediately follow up on those people. That's a big deal.
So a couple of things. Right now, you can download, as you're testing out this other technology. So I know that you, and I'll put a link up here in a second. So I know that you have a training that takes people through exactly how to capture these mobile leads and do it the right way.
Yes.
Now, do you, and I'll put a link in there for everybody else. And by the way, for who's watching the recording here in Social Media Ad Genius community, we'll put these links right underneath the video as well, too. Again, this is really, I really explain this to people as I come out and I do these expert interviews. I feel really fortunate that I just connected with some amazingly brilliant people. And I really started thinking about it. This is probably about a week ago when my friend John, he's like, hey, Kurt, like, how did you travel, know these different people, get to do these different things? And I really started to think about it. And I'm like, holy crap. I mean, Jesse, we've had this conversation a little bit too. Like, you and I know some of the same people. You know some other people who've been in the industry a lot longer than I've ever known. But like, we work with some people that on this planet, they are accomplishing things that very few people in history or that are living on the planet right now are doing.
Right.
People that we're hanging out with. And I'm like, oh my God, I get some creative ideas, but the brilliant ideas come from the people I hang out with in the community or people like yourself. So it's like, I want to start doing some expert interviews because I'm going to learn some stuff. I always do, and I always appreciate spending time with you. And then we share the link in here, but it's not like this, hey, let's share a link. Everybody should run outside and buy this. It's the greatest product in the world. You have to buy right now. And I'll say very clearly, fuck yeah, it's one of the greatest programs in the world. Like for what you guys are doing right here, and Jesse, with the experience that you have in putting this together. So I'm never shameless to say, damn it, if this thing will change your life, which I know it will because I've worked with you long enough, like make sure you guys utilize these tools. So sorry for my little rant, but it's like, damn it, people are like, Kurt, how do I do stuff? Did you been following us for the last 6 months? Did you do anything? I didn't. Well, then you should start.
I'll say one thing about my particular teaching style is I assume that a person doesn't have any skills when I go through the process. And before it even reaches the market, I have a large test group of students that I already work with. They'll get first access. They'll give me feedback. I'll make modifications and adjustments. So by the time it reaches you, there's no stumbling blocks. There's no places that you get to. And it's like, what do I do now? We account for those. The feedback has been phenomenal. So it's a very, very simple process that walks you through the steps. And I'll add this is that when Facebook comes out with a new marketing strategy, they're going to put them first in Power Editor before they put it in their regular advertising platform of Ads Manager. And so this means that you as a business owner or marketer or whatever your reason is for running ads on Facebook, I would say to you, there is benefit for you to learn Power Editor. It's not as complicated and as intimidating as some people might believe it to be. But in this particular instance, because it's the only way that you can run a mobile ad right now, I've made it real simple. You're basically following screen share. You're looking over my shoulder as I walk you through all the steps of actually going and placing your first mobile ad, how to optimize it then based on results, how to go and get your leads. So I walk you through from start to finish on it.
So I have an interesting question to ask you. Like, I've asked you some questions in here that I've just kind of always wanted to know, and I hope it finds great, benefit for our customers. But I got this conundrum maybe that you can help me out with, kind of just really your professional opinion.
All right.
So I have a couple of
rash.
I got this rash. There's this thing that by the way, I saw one of your very good friends, Mr. Tim Irway, down at an event I just spoke at.
Sure.
What Periscope, where I'm interviewing, I'm like, oh my God, like these guys were here in the very beginning. These are some of the first people that I met. These guys are brilliant. And I go, we're gonna do an interview with Mr. Tim Irway and Matt Crystal. And I shine the camera over for my Periscope, and TJ looks up and he goes, "How did you smuggle this much drugs through the airport?"
Oh, that's brilliant.
Thank you, Mr. Irway, for starting. This is great. I know this is a really important question that I'm really, really, really curious about. Is people call me and they go, Kurt, I just want to pay somebody to run my traffic, and my response is always like, hey, look, here's what I really struggle with. If you pay someone to run your traffic, you should have a proven offer. Period.
Yes.
Because really you're going to, like, for me, they're going to spend, and I know it's the same way with yourself, $4 or $5 grand for an agency fee. They're going to spend $4 or $5 grand on marketing and testing. They're going to be 10, 20, 30 grand into it before, they find out if it works or not. So make sure you at least tested your product.
Yes.
So I tell product owners that kind of have a hope and a dream and they haven't tested anything yet. And I go, look, the most powerful thing that you can possibly do as a business owner is to know how to run $1,000 or $2,000 to say, does this idea work? Does the funnel work? I think I can scale it. I'm going to hire someone.
Mm-hmm.
So Jesse, when someone comes to you or a student comes to you, you just talked about over the shoulder, step by step. On one half, I hear people who say, look, I don't have the time. All I want to do is I want to be a counselor to whatever, and I want someone else to handle the marketing. I want to pay for them to do the marketing. So you just talked about 2 programs on how to do it yourself. Mm-hmm. What's your opinion? Should people be paying a lot more to do it yourself, which is a higher charge, so they do it on their own? Like, what do you tell somebody when they're like, I just don't want to learn how to do this marketing thing. Yep. I just want to sell my product.
Yep. Well, it's a good question. My answer to it is this. It depends on who you are and what you do in your business. If you're the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker, and that's your core business, and are there candlestick makers anymore? I imagine there's some.
Yeah, of course. There's Yankee candles. Girls like those things.
If your goal is to focus exclusively on your core business and only to have to focus on marketing when you want to or not at all, then yes, you're going to pay a bit of a premium for someone who specializes in that to do it for you.
Yeah.
It will always be in your best interest to at least have some baseline understanding of the process. Because it does come in kind of 3 phases. When it comes to traffic, and on the very beginning, there's going to be a strategy involved with it. And that strategy goes through understanding your market, understanding your particular customer's avatar, and understanding that there's going to be some tests in your message to find out what your market responds to. Okay, that's on the very front end. Once you have that dialed in, there's going to be someone to do the done-for-you services of maintenance on your ads, keeping an eye on them, doing all that sort of thing. You could take that in-house, or you can, again, farm that out. Then there's the other side of it. Depending upon how much traffic you send and how well the message is received, as you said a moment ago, your offer had better convert. And if there isn't, then you have the issue of a copywriter coming in saying, now on the side of your website and your product and services, you need to tweak and adjust this because we're getting people to show up. It's like, hey, we're driving the bus, we're dropping people off, but then people are leaving because they're not buying anything. And you can't blame your traffic guy on that. So there's different components of marketing that you have to decide. Do you want to own any of those yourself, or do you want to farm those out and have other people do them for you? I would say that from a basic standpoint, like the thing we just talked about with mobile leads, it's an easy process. You can have leads up and running and coming in within the next 24 hours. And then it's just a matter of you deciding how those leads convert for you in your business based on what they're landing on and what they see once they get there.
What's interesting is working with you over the years, like the entire ecosystem, meaning like, okay, we learned how to do, like you had learned to do copy a long time ago and you start to advertise online a little bit. And then I start to kind of figure, this thing out. And it's funny, you start like watching people, like I'd watched you years ago before I knew who you were, but I kind of knew your name. Then I saw you at this one party. And then you said Bus, and Bus made me think of Kate Buck Jr. Kate Buck Jr. just came on to say hi as well, and I had to put in Bus in there as well too.
Yes, I got that from her. So yes, that's credit to you, Kate. I did take the bus driver thing from Kate.
Bus driver. Well, because the thing is what's really interesting is, Kate came out with, now we all three of us work together. We have different projects. We have projects together. But Kate was one of the people that came out with one of the world's. It was one of the first, but it was one of the world's first largest courses on how to train people to sell this type of service to small businesses. And I know you guys are doing that with Social Media Manager Pro, something we had worked on for a long time that you guys continue to work on. Dwayne's like, I met Kate Buck Jr. at the Internet Marketing Party last time he was down for Bunker Weekend. So dude, I was just telling my Shecky that was over here, our training coordinator. And I'm like, dude, I wake up and I see this beautiful view from the layer in the sky that I'm in. I think about the people I get to have conversations with. I'm spending time for this. Like people pay me to ask you questions like this, and we go through training. It's amazing when people tell me, Kurt, it's only the people who make and sell the trainings who are making money. And I'm like, dude, you really miss it. It's like owning a university. You get to talk to students, you get to talk to teachers, you get to talk to faculty, you have some of the brightest people in the world you get to spend time with. Like, this is one of the greatest jobs and ways to monetize in the world. So a couple of things to wrap this stuff up. So first of all, if you guys don't know who Kate Buck Jr. is, you should wave to her and say hello. And if you ever wanted to learn how to literally take all this social media stuff and sell it to small businesses, it's how I got my start. Jesse has talked about for years, this being the lowest hanging fruit. I'll put in a link in here too, but it's Social Media Manager Pro, or it's S. They don't have to spell the whole thing out, right? I know I've seen a link for this 1,000 times.
Oh, we do. We're just in the process of rebranding. It's
can I give out just Social Media Manager Pro?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so you guys can check that out as well too. There's also links inside of Social Media Ad Genius that lead you right over to Social Media Manager Pro. So Jesse, I know that you're always really good at what you always say is put a fence around it. So I want to be respectful for your time. So a couple of quick things to kind of wrap up. So I appreciate the history and the lineage. This was really, really good. This recording is going to go back for the members of Social Media Ad Genius. If you're not a member, just follow me or Jesse. I'm going to do these blabs once a week for a whole new funnel that we have set up, which is absolutely just going to be absolutely great. Disruptive education is definitely a better value proposition than from some traditional universities. That is awesome. Thank you, Mike. Absolutely. I appreciate that. We're going to put this in the back for the membership section so you can see the recording. Remember, we talked about mobile leads in here. Jesse has a mobile lead solution. It's smag2.com/mobile-leads. It'll be on the right-hand side. If you're watching the recording, it'll be below the video. The other solution that he has as well, too, is the Retargeting Pro. Step-by-step on how to do it. It'll be a plugin for you as well, too. It's a super smart play if you're sending people to sites that you don't own, or like we have a whole content strategy that we teach, and I know, Jess, you teach something very similar to where it's like, hey, look, if you're going to send people over to CNN, there is nothing wrong with that if it edifies your message. But the brilliant thing that Jesse created on tracking people and retargeting people that are part of your message that you see in it, so go to CNN, which is absolutely brilliant. So those two links are right here. Jesse, the only other two small things to ask, because I want to be sensitive to your time, is number one, I would love to have you on a training webinar at some point in the next couple of weeks where you really go over and talk about some of the mobile leads and some of the retargeting, if you don't mind.
Sure.
We'll set up like an hour like here. We just kind of hung out, talk so people get to know you, but a really good training webinar. And then the second thing is, as we talked right before we got on here, I'd like to schedule some time with you in the next couple of weeks, and I'll reach out to you afterwards to go through some of your favorite strategies of the reports that you look at Facebook. Everybody looks at numbers a little bit differently.
Yep.
Same buttons, they have a little bit different meaning to different people. So I'd love to have you come back. But you guys, if you believe Jesse gave you a lot of value today, make sure you give him some props, those hands up. Make sure that you follow him as well too. Check out the many different links that he has. Jesse, any other things that you want to talk about, divine points of wisdom that you want to share with people who are just starting to get to know you in our community?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of them is to actually give props to you. Over the years, I've been kind of following the things that you focus on, and we're kind of kindred spirits in the fact that we really peel back layers and get into our lab, kind of like a mad scientist, and really lift up the hood and see what makes things work. But the most important part of that is the ability to break it down in simple terms that a new person can understand it, and you do it incredibly well. And as a result, you have marketers both large and small from the world over that seek you out, and with good reason. It's one of those things where we all have a limited amount of time. Our time is pretty much what we have to work with. And so rather than trying to be an expert at everything, the best thing that I can offer as advice to people is to find someone who can be your ears to the ground when it comes to certain aspects of marketing. So that way you don't have to devote all your time to that. You can devote it to your core business. And as a result, Kurt is definitely a man to follow. He's going to save you lots of time, save you a lot of money, and make you a lot of money all at the same time. Yeah,
I appreciate that. I mean, it's just so interesting. Like when I fly on planes and I talk to other people and I kind of explain what we do, and they're like, wait a minute, let me get this straight. So you go to this party like once a month with a bunch of friends that you have that are kind of in the same business. And then you go up on top of this mountain, or like you go to this place in San Diego where you said that you're working, but you went out to a winery. Then the next day you went to a brewery, and then you're talking about going to a total we do for a living. And they're like, how? And like, I wake up every single day just grateful for the friendship that, you and I have. Getting to know, Kate Buck Jr. and, the business that we have and stuff like that. Like I would have never imagined 5 years ago that it would be anything like this. So I really appreciate you being here. Thank you very much.
Likewise.
That's very fun. All right. Thanks you guys. I really appreciate it. Jesse, thank you very much. I'll give you a call here in just a little bit. Thanks everybody. Oh, Australia Wow just joined, but sorry you guys, we're all out of time. You guys can check out the recording. It'll be up for 24 hours. Then it'll be back in the social media Ad Genius community. Thanks, Jesse. I appreciate you. Have a great day, buddy.
Cheers.